Hi, everybody. I'm Ginny Schuster. Thank you for joining us on Zoom In with Ginnypreneur. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Good morning, everybody. I am Ginny Schuster, and I am here today with Paul Vandeven. He is from Toronto, Canada. And I am absolutely fascinated with him because he started out in farming, which he's going to tell you about, and the entrepreneurship that he's gotten, the route he's taken from here is absolutely fascinating that I want him to share, and as well as sharing some of the fears that he had to overcome. Now, I met Paul a couple of weeks ago, actually in October. We were both at Contact Mapping's first convention here in Longmont, Colorado. And that was where he ended up getting his certification for being a coach. Now, Paul is a lot of things besides coach, and we're going to focus on the small business entrepreneur journey that he's been in. So welcome, Paul. Good to have you here today. Thanks a lot.
Good morning, Ginny. So yeah, it was great meeting you at the conference, and little did I know that our conversation would turn to doing this is the first podcast for me. So this will be fun.
This will be. And for me, it's the first going live. So you kind of pushed my button so that I'm going to keep learning. So being in Toronto, whereabouts was the farm that you're talking about that you were brought up on?
Yeah, so I'm actually in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, which is probably about an hour's drive west of downtown Toronto.
Okay.
And, our farm was just outside of London, Ontario, a little town called Mossley, and that's where I grew up and helped my parents on a hog and cash crop farm for quite a number of years. So yeah, that was my beginnings in learning how to run a business, because I was always involved with my mom and dad and in everything from the bookkeeping and paying the bills to actually doing the chores. So I got an early start in learning a good work ethic, and that carried me through until I was attending agricultural college and a 2-year program, and I had developed knee problems and got my cartilage all removed from one knee at an early age and half in the other knee, and basically was told by doctors at the time that I should probably be looking at another career, because just the physical challenges that I would end up being under. I had to make a decision whether I was going to farm or whether I was going to go on from there. So because I kind of took a liking to bookkeeping and accounting and just financial matters as they related to agriculture, I launched a career in that took me through 40 years or so of agricultural finance, ran a feed dealership. I did some was in the insurance business where we did farm estate planning and just worked for a turkey producer and turkey processor I've run the gamut. I worked for a credit union and a chartered bank for those two for probably a total of 20 years. And so that's my
I need to get a timeline so that I can follow through all these different things. This is a lot of different things.
Yeah, but they were always, everything was pretty much always agricultural based and agricultural related. So, I entered the workforce, after my farming career. I would say, what was it? Probably well, I have a hard time with timelines, but it would have been in
Well, is it
my
college or,
20s. Would have been
okay,
in my early 20s,
okay,
that I started my, career in agricultural banking. So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, so you were already, wow, at age 20, you were already on the route of really knowing finance and understanding that stuff and business as well.
right, right.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay. So you
yeah.
did that for about how long?
Well, all told, that whole thing took me to 19 or I was 50, what was I, 57 years old? So like about 8 years ago.
Okay,
Um, 2015 actually was the year um, that I found myself out of a job because the company I was working with at the time decided to move my position to Loveland, Colorado, no less. So
wow.
that's where the headquarters of the last company that I worked for. Um, so at that time, I was already doing a few things from about 2004. Yeah, 2014. I was looking for a side gig to give me a little bit extra money, and that's when I entered into the whole network marketing field and started to get my feet wet as a kind of a true entrepreneur, even though it was on a part-time basis.
Yeah, and a lot of people are scared about the idea of network marketing. When they think of that, they think of, oh my goodness, you're going to shove products down someone's throat, and they have a wall come up when you talk about, oh, I'm in network marketing and I absolutely love it. And was that your first feeling toward network marketing?
Yeah, pretty much. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about network marketing or you know compensation plans and all that stuff. I mean, my financial background allowed me to, figure things out fairly quickly, as far as how I would get paid. But I realized from day one that, it was up to me, you know, it wasn't a matter, it wasn't, I couldn't just sit back and think that it was just going to come my way. And that's, in those early days and through my career, that's where, my good, strong work ethic, has served me well because I know you don't get anything for nothing. And so I've always worked hard at whatever I do. But yeah, it was, because it was a side gig and I just wanted to make a few extra dollars and so on. It was a good way to break into the industry and learn more about it. Um, over the years, I've been involved in a number of different, um, network marketing companies, until I landed, in the one that I'm in now, that I've been in for a little over 5.5 years now. So, and that particular network marketing company is Canadian, and it's close by here. It is in just out, in the Greater Toronto area, and they've only been in business for a little over 6 years. So I've been there almost from the start. So, but by that time, I'd had enough experience in other network marketing companies that, I knew how it worked. They all are a little different, but they're all basically the same.
Mhm. Yeah.
and yeah, and it was a whole different, ball game, building a team, finding those people that were, as passionate as I was, because really I think that's the biggest thing that it takes is, the first thing is you got to be passionate about what you do. And, we always hear you got to be a product of the product. Well, it's true. I mean, if you're not using your own products, that's usually a red flag for people right there. So,
Right.
yeah, so that's how I, worked my way through. And, there were, there were lots of fears along the way because I was, I was doing fairly well in another network marketing company, and, a few changes were made that, didn't come off so well and didn't work so well. And I learned, how long it can take you to build up a kind of a business that was headed in the right direction, to how quickly it can all come unraveled. And you end up sitting back scratching your head wondering what the heck happened. And that about that time, that's when I found the current network marketing company that I'm with, that I distribute for. And you know what? I always say the good Lord takes you down the road you're supposed to go down. Sometimes if you don't maybe realize it, but people you meet, and things that you find, to me, are never by accident. I had some, from like I said, way back from my farming days. I had some health issues as a result of those early years, getting that cartilage removed and so on. And so I started having some health issues. And when I found this company, I found something that actually helped, was a solution to one of my problems that I had had for 20 plus years. And
Ah,
and
I was going
that
to ask you, Paul, if you sat down and actually had a list of criteria, since you mentioned that you've been through a couple different network marketing businesses, did you start to format, besides the passion in your own heart, did you start to format, okay, this is important if I get into network marketing and these 5 things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, along the, and here's the thing, right? Along the way, you encounter, you encounter things that sometimes are more important, that have nothing to do with business, that are your own personal challenges and so on, that you go through. And along the way, for me, one of the things that I ran into with, after, some trauma in my younger days, that, I turned to alcohol.
Uh,
And at some point, that just became more and more a way for me to at the time, I thought that was going to solve all my problems, right? All it did was made me not care. And
yeah.
so those are the challenges, those life challenges that you have to deal with along the way. And they have an effect on everything you do in life.
That's interesting that you say that, because the people that I've met through network marketing, they are going through a lot of self-development, and that's huge criteria for them.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it sounds as though that's something that happened to you.
right. So when you're talking about those things that you need, to when you're launching into a network marketing career, You know, I think the number one thing that I had to deal with was, you know, when I finally got sober, you know, and this, you know, most of this, you know, most of my network marketing experience kind of came after I got sober.
Oh, interesting.
After many years of trying, and the biggest thing that I first noticed that that I needed to work on was I had no self-confidence. I had no, you know, I didn't feel like I was worth anything, you know, I wasn't enough. I wasn't, you know, I seemed
All
like
that mindset stuff
the
that messes
mindset that,
you.
you know,
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
that negative mindset. And so that's, you know, that started my whole personal development journey. And, you know, through that, you know, I learned, you know, you learn from your, hopefully you learn from your mistakes, and, you know, failures are only failures if they don't end up being lessons. And the lessons I learned along the way was that, you know, number one, you know, you need confidence. And the only way you're going to get confidence is if you, you know, if you love yourself.
Yeah.
If you, you know, if you believe that, you know, there's that belief, right? There's that belief that you can do, you know, when you conquer something, it's like you have to remember that, you know, it's for me, it's like you know, people always tell you in the network marketing business, you need, you know, consistency is so important. You know, and it wasn't until the day that I realized that, you know, I didn't think I was consistent in anything until someone reminded me that at that point I had whatever, I had, you know, over 2,000 days of sobriety, and realized that, yeah, you know what? I've been pretty consistent in not picking up a drink. And it changes your mindset, right?
Yep.
It tells you that that was probably the hardest thing I ever had to get consistent doing.
Yeah.
And you know, once you start to realize that, then you have, you know, then your mind starts setting you up for, you know, you know, moving forward and accomplishing, you know, taking on challenges that you would never ever have thought that, you know, you would take on. And you end up, you know, with time, you end up conquering them, you know,
I have a
because of
question for you.
that consistency.
Did you have someone who believed in you that ended up making your mind up to stop doing the drinking?
Oh, I had lots of people telling me I had a problem, but until I realized I had the problem, not much happened. And you know, I always say to people, you know, there were people that were trying to get me sober, that knew I had a problem, but, you know, at the time I didn't see it, and that's why it took me so long to finally get sober. And
Mhm.
you know, though, that it just, it takes being honest with yourself. It
Yeah.
takes,
Yeah.
you know, it takes that, you know, and I kept, when I tell my story today, I just tell people, I said, you know, I hadn't lost enough yet, you know. I had to
I didn't
lose,
hit the bottom of the barrel yet.
I had to lose everything. I had to become homeless for a couple of months,
Oh, wow.
you know, living in my vehicle. And
Wow.
you know, those are the kind of things, you know, with, you know, worrying about where you were going to get your, you know, where you're going to get your next meal,
Wow.
you know, literally having pocket change in your, you know, and
Yeah.
that, you know, and somehow you had to make it through with that. And
Yeah.
yeah, those, you know, those are the things that, you know, you know, and through all of that, you end up, not only do you build character, but when you start to get honest with yourself, then it's a lot easier to get honest with others, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, so that's, you know, that whole, finally conquering that disease is really what started to help me move forward. And that's professional development has always been a big part for me. And, I started getting personal, coaches to help. I had to go through some traumas that I had to go, outside and get treatment, for.
Okay.
And, work through some of those issues and traumas from, my earlier life. And, when you do the work, it really comes down to, again, it just doesn't happen, it's not easy work, but once you do the work, it kind of paves the path for you to, that's when I started doing, getting some coaching and, one-on-one coaching that I had, some success with, some not great success with, but, I knew I had to keep moving in that direction. And,
Well,
and then
let's move on to how we originally met online, Zoom. And
right,
that was through the contact mapping meetings
right,
that I would attend periodically,
Yeah.
where you get training on how to build your business. And I feel that that's really an important step that you took, because you were consistent. Speaking of consistent, you were consistently there. And that is a phone app, just for our audience to understand. It's helps you with not only keeping track of your discussions that you have with people that you meet, it also helps you with setting a follow-up date. So
Yeah.
how did you find contact mapping and Adrian Chenault and that company?
Yeah, so it again, through the years of trying to work network marketing, I mean, I tried all kinds of CRMs that just didn't seem to work for me. And in the end, contact mapping was more than a CRM, and that's why it works for me now. But, when I talked about, how sometimes, the Lord takes you on a path and has you meet people that you never ever thought you would. And, after my job was gone at age 57, I kept looking for things to do and work to do. And I ended up in the film industry and, doing locations. And, part of that was through the pandemic. And right around the beginning of the pandemic, a new app came on, which was Clubhouse.
Oh, okay.
And so I was working, for the most part, I was working nights. So, I was on at sometimes we were filming, sometimes I was just keeping an eye on things. And, but, there were 12-hour shifts all night. And when that app came open, I started finding, you name it, they had groups in there. And I found some sobriety rooms. So people that were just, talking about, drinking and how they wanted to quit. And, a lot of AA meetings and stuff had closed down, and we're doing things by Zoom or whatever because of COVID. And lo and behold, one night, I think it must have 1:30 in the morning my time, and this guy named Tom Chenault shows up in a sobriety room. And the rest is history. I got to know Tom, and the two of us kind of hit it off. And the next thing I knew, I was having a look at contact mapping. And timing wise, I always say timing is you just never know what's going to happen. But yeah, all of a sudden we got talking. I think a day later or 2 days later, we connected on Instagram or whatever it was. I think it was Instagram at the time. And we started private chatting with each other. And building that relationship. And Tom built a relationship with me the same way as they teach all of us to build relationships and using contact mapping. And the contact mapping, it's an app, but it's a lot more than an app. It's a community. It's a group of people that really care about one another, and we're there to help support a lot of us during those times. And
one thing I've seen is that it's geared toward small businesses and a lot of times one-man businesses. Don't you think? Or have you seen it change to larger?
There's a lot of that, but I've noticed even in the 2 years that I've been there, we're starting to get more. We're getting insurance people, we're getting realtors, we're getting, there is a lot of people in there that are in different network marketing companies. It lends itself. It's a way to remember people, right? And to remember.
I love it. Yeah. I use it as well. I think you're better at it than I am because you have learned the system because you're in the group and they're constantly reminding you how to use it.
Right.
Yeah. And yet when you reach out to somebody just to say, hey, how you doing? I was thinking of you today. There was something that was mentioned on the radio and it made me think of you. So I'm just reaching out. Hope you have a great day. I just love that touching someone and they go, whoa, you remember me?
We have something, we've got something on there now called rotations of remembers. And it's just like, you set up somebody that, you want to touch base with, some maybe every week, some monthly, some every 3 months. But the thing is it's reminding you to stay in touch with that person.
Yeah.
And to just honestly take an interest in them and see what they're doing. What are they up to? And when you can, when you can capsulize some of that stuff and keep it in your notes and so on and come back to them. And, there's nothing that floors anybody more than, when you talk about something that you talked about with them, a year ago or 2 years ago. And they're thinking, how in the heck did you ever remember that? Well, guess what? We record it. We keep track of that kind of stuff. So we're not in there for what we can get. We're in there for what we can give.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, in a lot of cases, it's been, some people just need some support and being lifted once in a while. And, it's just, it has certainly changed my life. I've ended up in their private coaching program when they started it last year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
I was one of the first group that got, personal coaching with their head of client services and so on, Elizabeth Larson. And then through that, they were getting so busy with, recommendations and people wanting to do one-on-one coaching that, Elizabeth and Adrian took on the task of teaching some of us, doing the course with us and teaching us to become coaches. And so, I'm looking forward to coaching with them and helping other people, help them with their own breakthroughs and just like I did. And it's an exciting, it's an exciting phase in my life. I decided this past year, that was a big fear. Like, I was coaching with Elizabeth and I said, my goal this year is I don't want to, we usually were off for 2 to 3 months around, Christmas, January, February. And I said, one of the goals I set for myself was that, I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to have to go back to work. I wanted to make my network marketing career, full time.
Okay.
And I noticed that every time I had that one, that 2 to 3 months off, my business would start to go up, right? And then about the time that it was really going, then I'd go back to work to a 75 to 95 hour a week job, and all of a sudden I didn't have the time to spend on my business, and and it just would plateau and then it would start coming down again. So through the coaching program, we were able to work at putting some goals in place, but working on the mindset and the things behind what helped to make you consistent, and being consistent, being successful. And my business has just continued to elevate since that decision, and then deciding to take the plunge and become a coach myself. It was a realization that for a lot of years I've been coaching people and not even realizing it.
Yep.
Whether that was in AA, whether that was in people that also were wanting to start new businesses and so on, that a lot of just my own experience and my failures and setbacks became points for me to help others get through. And
I was going to say, if you're in network marketing, you basically are a leader. You're basically coaching everybody, and you're a mentor, because you find that everybody needs a mindset shift so that they can work through their own, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I all these things?
Right.
And I think a lot of people have to work through that and don't really realize it until it kind of hits them in the face when they're searching for what do they want out of life,
Right.
type thing.
Right. And it's funny, but I turned 65 this year, and it took me 65 years to kind of figure out to really get to know what my purpose in life is.
Yeah.
That realization on its own just opens so many doors for you. And
well, don't you think when you're a kid, you think, boy, those older people, they just know exactly what they want, and they've got it all figured out, so you're listening to them, and then come to find out, whoops, maybe they don't know it all, and maybe they're going through issues. So it's really an interesting progression as you get older of what you learn, and if you want to learn it, and if you're open-minded, because one thing's for sure, they say, is change.
That's
and
right.
When you look at your life, look at how you've gone from farming to finance to network marketing to coaching. An amazing ride.
Yeah. And it's like I'm more excited about my life now and what's coming than I did for many years, right? But of course, I mean, the alcoholism didn't help that, because that
it just made it more front of the mind, front lobal.
Yeah, exactly.
We need a change, right? Here.
Yeah, and so there's just so many exciting things that are helping to move me ahead. And we just started with contact mapping. We just started making 2023 your best year ever. And last year I went through this one has been really enlarged and kind of re-engineered. But even the one that I did last year really helped set me up for the success that, you know, and success according to me, not according to what other people think might be successful, but that's set me up to be able to not go back to work and do what I'm passionate about, you know, 24/7. And you know, they always say when you find a job that, you know, you can't wait to get up in the morning to get started and go, you know, you'll never work another day in your life. And that's
so
really
true.
how that there's a lot of truth in that. So,
And I think that's the message that we want to get across to people, that if you're in a corporate job, there are other ways. What is hard for most people is they get used to going from paycheck to paycheck.
right.
And then when your job, such as what happened to you, your job is no longer there, you know, you've been fired or let go or whatever the reason, that is when it's a true shock to the body and you need to look at other options. So I just want to put it out to our viewers that network marketing is an amazing business to get into. It's got lots of benefits. And yes, it's not easy, but any business that you get into, any entrepreneurship is not going to be easy, but it's growing. It gets you to grow your mind, your mentality, your relationships. And then you start to find maybe a new group of people you're around. Maybe it's the old group that you've always been with, and you bring them along, and you're a leader, you're a mentor, you're a coach, just like Paul. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Paul, for going through your journey with us and telling about how great network marketing is and contact mapping and all the different things.
Questions about you know, how to get there, you know, we can help you with that.
I love it. Super. Well, thank you, Paul. We'll talk to you later, and thank you for taking time out of your day to do this chat.
Thank you.